Take a drink. Good evening, everybody, and all you beautiful people coming to have a little fun talking about those, for some of you, defined as pieces of wood with wires. For the other side of us, defined as those mighty tools of mass destruction for all things awesome in life. Um as I said, welcome to everyone else. Sorry for the difficulties. I promise this show will have its own channel. It's already on. Is already there. Problem is YouTube has uh, weird conditions in order to on how fast can you do things. So we found ourselves a little off guard, and that's why we're broadcasting in my particular channel. So thank you very much for everybody who subscribed to this channel. But we'll keep you posted so you can also subscribe to the one that actually will talk about these things we're going to talk here in the show. The show is called Six Oscillators, and what will it be about? Obviously, for all you people in the internet, excuse me, because like some of you know, but some of you don't. I'm Spanish, so English is not my mother tongue, and we better not talk about my mother's tongue. Uh, so, in advance, I apologize for all the grammar issues, diction issues, and all the misunderstandings, which, trust me, we'll have a big share of that. So, the show I want to put out to you. First of all, I want it to be a community show. I would love you to have all of you watching us having a little outlet to let your inner guitar god out either way, because this is not a guitar channel. Okay, don't worry, don't panic. This is not a guitar exclusive channel. It's not, or show, or whatever you want to call these things. This thing we're gonna perpetrate tonight. It's about guitars and synthesizers, and it's about synthesizers and guitars, and synthesizers that play guitars and guitars that play synthesizers. And hell, why no? Even those beautiful people like me and my co-host that I'm going to introduce in a minute, guitars, because guitar people, they're also people and they deserve some love. And I have one. He who is coming has one. And I would love to know which one of you, or how many of you there in the chat, have a guitar. Because doesn't matter if you're a guitar player who wants to play synthesizers and is fighting the tech and is a little easier from a keyboard, or you're a keyboard player who wants the joy of the front of the stage and the beams on you and all the smoke machines and all the throwing and launching of lingerie to your face, but you haven't had the time or the courage to go the final step and go to the stringed version of it. You still want your comfortable, the one I know how to play, keyboard. And as I said, you're all welcome. This is your home. I want it to be a safe haven for all those people, being guitar players, that get called freaks because they want to play synth sounds, or those synth players or keyboard players or even piano players who once in a while step up to the front of the stage instead of having to be buried into thousands of currency coins in wonderful, wonderful vintage synthesizers or keyboards. You just want, here and there, have some piece of the action. This is your home. You're welcome. You're with family now. It's not going to be just me blabbing like I usually do, all of those who don't know me. And for the ones who don't know me, I talk like a machine. Most of it out of my ass, and I have no authority on anything I say, but my personal experience and the little research I enjoy doing. All right. I try to inform and find the answers to the questions that me myself have about these subjects and all the subjects coming, right? But I don't know everything. I don't even know everything about guitars, and I've been smashing gracefully those things for 30 years now or more, and I still don't know everything. So I'm always happy to be corrected, happy to be informed, happy to be educated, because this is not, or at least I don't want it to be a show for you to just listen to me and follow me blindly. Please don't. You will have a very, very unsatisfactory life, very pitiful. No, I want you to interact with me, to educate me, to tell me what I don't know, to correct me every single time that I'm wrong. Please do. I'm counting on you. All right? Thank you very much. And as I said, it won't be just me. I have a partner in crime. In fact, you could call is the tails to my heads, the back to my coin, the other side, not the palm, but the face of my hand, because thankfully we come from opposite ends of this gorgeous Venn diagram of guitars, synthesizers, and everything in between. He's coming from the synthesizer side. So he is the one knowledgeable about keyboards, synths, oscillators, MIDI, programming, and all that stuff. I'm learning. So I'm going to, like I hope you will do as well, I'm going to make questions like a maniac. In fact, let me know if you would be happy having a section or two sections about guitar players learning about synthesizers or synthesizer players learning about guitar, getting to know each other, befriending, being friendly and nice to each other. Be excellent. Cool. And that partner in crime, some of you already know, it's already an expert on the streaming business. He also been broadcasting live from a couple of NAMM editions for all the pleasure of all of us. We cannot go there with excellent results, and thankfully has a bigger following than I do, which I assume is half of the people, the beautiful people is talking right now in the chat. They come to see him. By the way, I don't blame him because he's actually the eye candy. So please welcome my co-host, Mr. Synthetic, aka Andy Joyce. Hey, Sid. Oh my
hey.
God.
Hey, fancy
caught
meeting you here.
What are you doing?
Caught me playing with my little mini guitar synth.
What is that? Now,
we'll go over that.
Yeah, that's the type of expression, jokingly, we will not allow in this community. Everything that can cross that Venn diagram of looks like a guitar, but it sounds like a synthesizer, or plays like a synthesizer, but it's actually sounding like a guitar, and any imaginable in-between point. This is your home. You're finally home. Welcome you all. So,
welcome
Mr.
all the misfits.
Synthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all the misfits. Because, in fact, give me just one extra minute to explain why somebody would even dare to envision this monster, this Frankenstein of a niche show. If you, well, let's not call it a show. That was saying too little about the real shows, like the one just preceded us, the wonderful people from PSN who helped us to bring some of you our way, and we're extremely thankful, and we always be. Trust me, we're not trying to compete, and we will never be able to compete with the highest level of professionality that PSN can offer you. We pale in comparison. Plus, we're so lazy, this show is not going to be weekly. It's reasonable and it's only logical if you start with the point that for all of you that are following this little word of guitar, synth guitar, the industry doesn't move as fast as every other area of tech music, guitar music, any other music industry. The synth guitar niche doesn't move as fast as every other one. In fact, there's barely any novelties once a year. So this show, and you can thank me later, will only be torturing you beautiful people only once a month. Okay? You have a whole 3 weeks and a half to forget about the trauma of watching the show and get ready for the next one. All right? Joking aside, Mr. Synth-Addict, please introduce yourself if I haven't said everything already, which I know I haven't, and tell the people how the heck did I twisted your arm and make you come here? Why? Why are you here?
Well, thank you. I'm of course happy to be here. I've always liked different technologies, even outside of music. So this is just the perfect thing to have an outlet to cover all the weird controllers and keyboards and all the other stuff I have. That I did try learning guitar about 20 years ago. I'm still basically a 20-year beginner. Because I don't have the patience, just like I don't have the patience to learn all the scales and arpeggios for piano, to play Rachmaninoff and all the stuff I would love to play. I just don't have the time or the energy to devote for that. I devote it to other things. So, but these gadgets and these weird kind of hybrid things, Keytars and guitars with synths inside of them and MIDI controllers and stuff, allow you to experiment, add more expression to your performances, or just noodle and have fun with alternative ways of creating sound and music. So the guitar really does provide a perfect vehicle to add that. And now obviously like Rolly Seaboard and stuff has come out, and Osmos, to give you like wiggling keys, pressure on keys, sliding, gliding, smushy kind of stuff to mimic a fretboard in a way of bending strings and going up and down the neck. Or like the instrument, which is very much like a guitar layout. So there are all these things out there that allow you to do all that stuff, and you just cannot do it with a normal keyboard, whether you like or not. It just cannot do it. They're very expressive in their own way, but adding these weird and wonderful controllers, it's worth putting in a time investment in to learn basic guitar or a guitar hybrid or something like that to expand your horizons.
Cool. And thankfully, you just mentioned one thing I forgot to mention myself. Let me see if I can switch this. How do you do this? That's how you do it. As I said, doesn't matter where do you come from. Guitar, keytar, synthesizers wanted to be more expressive or just improve your crafting of guitar sounds for your own songs. As I said, this is a channel welcoming to not any English words, not only every walk of life, but also every musicianship level. I don't care if you've been playing for 50 years, 30 like me, or you just started yesterday, or you've been playing 30 years keyboards, and you suddenly go, I just want to mix it up. I just want to try something new. And why not guitar? And please understand me, when I say guitar, I'm always implying and always including guitar and bass guitar. Although the show is 6 oscillators, which implies a traditional guitar, let's get to that subject at another date. Bass guitars also reach 6 strings, and that's the name of the show, because a guitar is nothing but a 6 oscillator synthesizer. If you apply the right gear to a standard wooden-made guitar, or if you use any of those controllers, like Synthetic has been mentioning, for instance, that blue one that it shocked me so much. Is it handy? There you have it.
Corda. Yeah.
It's basically the neck of a guitar, as in the disposition where the notes are.
You can play like a lap steel, or you can strum
Exactly.
it this way. There's a strum area here.
But it weighs way beyond what a guitar can do, not only because of the application through MIDI, and in this case, Bluetooth MIDI, right?
Bluetooth MIDI and also USB out to whatever. So
awesome. So it's ready for every type of battle. But it gives you some points in between that would allow you to get quickly to some results, because although what it looks like frets, it doesn't have strings, but a guitar player would be familiar with the fretting on the neck. It's there. But if you're not familiar with that, just as you showed, you put it on the table and there's some keys. So that one is a very smart cookie, and we'll have certainly a big section talking about that on a later show.
Yeah.
And good. Just let me.
So you.
This is something.
How about I demonstrate a few? Oh yeah, I got to show your mug.
Say what?
I was going to say, do you want me to quickly visually demonstrate some of the gear we're talking about to cover the spectrum?
Say what? Sorry? What? Sorry, I had to do it. Had to be.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, sorry, the little housekeeping we're going to do today is, can everybody hear us on a nice, acceptable quality? Please let us know, give us some feedback of the sound quality, and if there's something that should be addressed now, as in do it. Okay? Yeah, please show that. Let me put you all for you. There you go.
Okay, no problem. So just as a summary of the basics of what we're going to cover on this channel, aside from other things later on. So guitar-like alternative controllers like this. Going closer to guitar, something like this jam stick. This is the original jam stick that's not like the new ones that looks like a guitar. This has the little strummy strings and a proper fretboard with strings, but it's all it's fully MIDI controller, Bluetooth, so you can do it on iOS and computers and stuff, and control all kinds of stuff. So, and very portable, even has a little strap and all that stuff. So that gets closer to guitar. Yeah. And
no strap, no fun.
A little closer to guitar is something like this kind of wacky Yamaha Easy EG, which actually has buttons per fret, no strings up here, and some strings down here to get at least the attack out of it, and it has a whammy bar and stuff like that. So it approximates a guitar, but it's buttons. So you're not going to get you're not going to do bends with this. You're just pressing buttons. And then a little closer to an actual guitar that, you know, it is actually a proper guitar when you look at it at a glance. Looks like a Stratocaster. This is called a fretlight guitar, and it has a light up fretboard. And this particular one uses a cable to do USB to sync your app. So you do like paint by numbers, learn your stuff when the fretboard lights up and you play along with famous tracks or whatever. So it's really cool. But this one's cable based, the older design. I have another one not right in front of me right now that's also Bluetooth and battery operated, so you can have an iOS device and your guitar all wirelessly connected and just go sit on a park bench and sit there and learn how to play guitar. Or use it as a controller to drive things like a MIDI controller. It's very clever. And then you go a little further down toward a proper guitar. And this is also a proper guitar. Casio PG380 made by Ibanez. And it's a proper guitar with a
Mm-hmm.
whammy bar and all that kind of stuff, but it
Mm-hmm.
also has a built-in Casio VZ synth. It's basically a VZ10M rack
Wow.
brain inside here, plus a MIDI controller, and it has
Mm-hmm.
all three outs here. So you can do simultaneous MIDI, guitar out, and synth out all at once. And the tracking is very good. So
Cool.
there's that. And then, of course, you have, other playing guitars. I have another one that's a modern 13-pin guitar where it uses
Mm-hmm.
the hex pickup to control, like he was
Mm-hmm.
showing in the opening video, the
Mm-hmm.
GR55, things like that. And then on the way far part of the spectrum, we also have got a called Keytars. So here's a classic Roland AX7 with D-Beam,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and very, very expressive. So
Never forget the D-beam.
that's right. Gotta love D-Beams. So that's kind of the gamut of most of the kind of breadth of controllers, along with some other stuff. I'll let Eddie comment further on that. So.
Okay, let's go not too deep, because today is not the day for anything deep. Okay, it's just presentation, getting to know each other, and explain what could you expect from this monthly thingy. Okay, because you've been browsing through many examples of all the instruments that are totally, let me reiterate and be boring as fuck, totally welcome here. This is the home for you. You're home, you're with friends. Okay, this is a safe environment for all to have our own therapy, because let's start with me. Okay, I'm Froze. I've been a synth player, well, a synth guitar player for 5 years, 7 almost. And all my life, I've been trying to sound like a synthesizer through pedals, effects, electronics to modify the plain kind of boring sound of a guitar. So, in a spirit, I always been a synth player. In fact, the fact that I never became a keyboard player is because I could not afford a synthesizer. Sadly, entry-level guitars are cheaper. So what you've been doing is showcasing all the shades, at least 90% of the shades of things that are welcome here in this meeting of friends. And but we're not talking about what originated. Where is the science behind? What is this witchcraft that allows a piece of wood with wires, i.e., guitar, be able to play a mini moog, or guitar, something you can strap on your neck and run around like a maniac, be able to play flamenco guitar if you wish? Because once you go MIDI, there's no, it's like the Pringles. Once you go pop, no, there's no stop. Yes, Wagyu and basses as well, bass guitars. Also, because now is what I'm focusing my area of expertise. So a little, a little history. So the first problem that technology found, to my knowledge, is okay. We got voltage out of our guitar, the quarter inch of an electric guitar. So, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of my head. First, we get the guitar and we make it louder. Invention of the electric guitar. Thanks to the electric guitar now outputs voltage, not only sound, not only pressure waves on the air, also converts into voltage and then voltage back into pressure into air. And those wonderful, brilliant minds of the synth developers, because they based their whole career on mangling voltage, CV, control voltage. Yes, I'm being a little too plain on the explanation, because I hope having some guitar players in the chat, so for them to understand synthesizers, that's my role, and for me and everybody else in the show, sorry, to explain synthesizers to guitar players, that's my role, and Mr. Synthetic will pleasantly explain guitars to synthesizers, sorry, to guitar players. I'm making any sense? No, I'm not.
Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
I will relate to.
Yeah.
So now we got a guitar that has output voltage. Sadly, electronically, they're not really compatible, but electronics do wonders. And people like ARP, Mr. ARP, Alan ARP Herman Foundation,
You
show
mean
it.
this one?
Those ones. Oh yeah, mama.
Show your shirt. You're the
the
guitar shirt guy. There you go.
that's the money shot. Cool. They decided, hey, guitars are already outputting voltage. Oh, but the voltage is too low, even amplified, and it's too hard to make it talk to a analog modular synthesizer, semi-modular, ARP version, semi-patch, whatever. So they decided, okay, let's improve the captation, the reception, the conversion into voltage of the guitar. And that's when they started developing this concept that we'll call later hexaphonic pickup. It's the same technology, it's exactly the same technology as a magnetic guitar pickup. In fact, let me illustrate. So, for Synthesized, if you don't mind, I'm going to take the stage for a minute.
Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, do it.
So, for all of those of you that are not familiar, this is what an electric guitar looks like, okay? 2 pickups, conventional pickups, and 6 strings. That's the tradition. That has a couple of extra bells and whistles because this is what allows this guitar to go MIDI. Not this, not a special pickup being here. Sorry, here, there, that black little bar. Shit, I'm really bad at this, am I? Okay, that's the hexaphonic pickup, which is nothing but this pickup going back and up times 6. If you can see, I don't know if you can see, the ones with big TV screens will be able to see that there are like 6 little squares underneath the strings. Can you hear me? Cool. That is the 6 times conventional pickup hexaphonic that goes to the controller, that goes into what Synthetic mentioned, 13-pin technology. That's jumping ahead in history, which is that very big body baby that takes, in this case of this model, both the traditional sound of the guitar and the hexaphonic sound of the hexaphonic pickup down to the machine that will do the conversion to MIDI. Okay, it's a very common misconception that this device here is doing conversion from vibration to MIDI. No, this is a magnetic pickup the same way that these ones are. They're just multiples of it, right? And it's still analog voltage all the way down the cable, down to the unit. The brain, the sound module, like in the video, my GR55, which is the one I have, which I love and hate in equal parts. More explanations to come at a later date. So that's one of the ways you can get guitar execution going down to synthesizers. Sadly, that technology is still in progress, although they'll be going at it since the late 70s. I still need to triple check my facts. I believe, although there was a prototype from another company I just forgot, the first publicly announced, although it was never released as a product, guitar synthesizer with a hexaphonic pickup, I'm aware, I believe it was released by the company ARP. I think it was called the Avatar. one of them was built. I think it was internally something like, and please correct me, Synthetic, if you know better. I think it was like 6 Odysseys.
Yeah, I
6
don't know the
voices,
dates and all
like
that, but yeah, it was the Avatar. Yeah.
The Avatar was the first one that got announced to the industry. There was another one that kind of was the proof of concept that it could be done, although it needed a little more work. It was another company before them, and I don't know how much. In fact, if anybody in the chat knows which that one, please refresh my memory. Thank you very much. So that technology is there, and although that technology has survived and evolved in equal parts up to the present day, is still not totally there. Okay, we'll explain further later on another show. Then that's why Synthetic has been showing alternatives that solve the problems that the 13-pin technology has. And yes, I'm saying has still up to the present day. They haven't sorted those one out, although they're getting so closer, including the latest revolution by probably the only, to my knowledge, the only manufacturer, mass manufacturer, I mean, know about the small builders, which are many, like the products you just showed, that is still pushing the concept of the synth guitar, i.e. Roland, in between us, Roland Corporation, kind of, because opposite of Yamaha Spirit, where they brand every single aspect of their manufacturing with the same Yamaha brand, Roland Corporation splits each division, as in drums, bass, guitar, keyboards, on a different branding to sell those products, right? So whenever we mention Roland Corporation in this context, synth guitar, yes, they were the first ones, and most of the history of the synth guitar evolution is by the hand of Roland brand. But recently, on a personal, probably misinterpretation, they gave up and they gave the whole section of synth guitar to the guitar, a standard guitar section, which is Boss pedals, namely. But since Boss has been using and drinking from Roland technology almost since the beginning, and they have a very long career of doing multi-effect units that even out of a quarter inch would offer some synthesizer sounds out of a quarter inch. The latest revolution on guitar synth history has come by the hand of Boss, namely, and let me, oh geez, I would love to, please, Synthetic, Google this if I'm right. I think it's called Boss GM800.
Okay.
The first innovation, the first problem they solved, well, the biggest problem that the whole technology has is latency. Not only latency in between I do a movement and I hear a sound, but many of guitar playing is based on speed, on very fast techniques, much alike like organ playing or very virtuoso concerto piano playing. And those speeds of execution have been hindered by the latency of the devices, the time that the system takes between the string moving and the sound coming out of the speakers. So the GM800, if I'm right on that moniker,
I did present it. If you want to hit the presentation thing I shared there, you can show it.
Which is this one. This is the baby. So this is just the brain. It's very small. We're talking a little less than 4 Boss stomp size pedals. Okay. It's not as big as GR55. It's almost a third of the size. because now everything is tiny and everybody wants tiny. So the biggest innovation, there's a photo on the side. Can you show? Okay, so the biggest innovation with this unit is not the unit itself, is the new pickup they develop. No, I don't think it's in that. It's on the side. There's an advert that says buy a bundle. That picture. Can you tick on that one? Good. So that little black box, you can see that has the wire and the hexaphonic pickup. Okay, same as the one I showed you, which is called GK3, is the third iteration of the 13-pin wire, a hexaphonic pickup by Roland. Good. What they did this time is they said, okay, we need to downsize the latency, the time response between string and sound. So to do that, let's remove the longest tether and the longest delay in the chain, which in their minds is the 13-pin cable. So by doing so, they changed their policy. Instead of sending voltage down to the unit for the unit to do the digital conversion, this new pickup with this new Vox is doing the digital conversion on the guitar, just a few inches away from the actual movement of the string. So we're shortening wire lengths, we're shortening all that is necessary to make that. That's why they also released this new cable that is not 13-pin, it's not 13 wires, it's only 3 wires. It's a TRS cable because it's basically a MIDI cable. Although, for reasons we all know and love and hate about Roland Corporation / in this case Boss, for not allowing people to use their own homemade cables, they want to sell the, sorry to be blunt, snake oil, that cable is the only cable that will transmit your digital data safely to the unit. No, you need a good quality cable, but any 3-wire cable with good shielding would do the job, right?
Also,
because
since you're talking about basses, comment on the tracking issues with bass notes.
Exactly, because the lower you go on the tuning, one of the jobs that the brain, and in this case I'm talking about partially the analog brains of the beginning of the story, but mostly about the digital brains that we've been dealing with since the 80s, basically. I think the JK system was released around 84, 85 probably. If anybody has more accurate data, please share it. That's when they went digital, as in the brain being digital. I was saying about the wire. The wire is not special. This is doing the conversion. So this brain, in this case, is just doing the MIDI to what a normal MIDI brain would do. So yeah, I was saying that you don't need a special cable. Any cable with good shielding would do. But they just basically made obsolete the whole 13-pin generation of technology. Now they're vintage because the new one is better, is faster, is more accurate, needs a less expensive and less fragile, because that's another big point on the 13-pin technology. The cable is too fragile for professional use. And sadly, the wireless 13-pin unit has taken a very long time to happen, mostly because of size, weight, and price. Although the price has not touched down, the way I like to call it, as in reduced to mere mortal thing. It's doable. It's not entry level, but it's not crazy level. you can go wireless now that the technology has been made redundant by the creators of the technology themselves. Way to go, Roland. And just to mention, this is a subject we will come back time and time again, because the 13-pin technology has hosted not only synthesizers per se, but all the types of technologies to modify what it usually comes out of the quarter-inch hole on a guitar to make it sound different, okay? On a pleasant way or not pleasant way, that's up to the people who buy it and use it to decide. But it will definitely make it sound different.
Also,
Cool.
thankfully, Roland was smart enough to not make all these monolithic devices. They made some intermediate MIDI devices that went 13-pin to DIN5 MIDI and go to any gear you want. I have one of those. And it's
exactly
because you don't need all the extra stuff if you're not going to use guitar sounds or whatever, you know.
Yeah, exactly. The minute they had the 13-pin conversion analog to digital quite under their fingers, they started releasing the converters without any sound module. That way you could make your guitar your master MIDI controller, right? Because all that the unit was doing, and that's so I just remember where my train of thought got derailed. Since you don't have to do a third step, which is voltage to MIDI to sound, you can open the control not only to sounds and synth brains, but also to lighting, special effects, as well as any other 16 by 16 grid of buttons, or 6 by 6 or 3 by 3 grid of buttons would allow you to assign a MIDI control. That's another thing we'll touch up on a later date. Exactly. This is one example.
So I have this one, and it's excellent. It's cheap. It was used from a friend when I bought his 13-pin guitar he was selling. And then I just plugged guitar straight into this and straight into Reface DX and was having fun.
Awesome. Just one question, because I had no experience with this particular one. I have another one by another brand that tried to improve on this concept. Does it allow you to play as fast as you can play on a standard guitar?
Because I'm not a great player, I can't comment, but it played well for what I was doing.
I'm being bitchy here. I know that. And because I know that, that's why I want your answer.
My friend who plays very well, who sold me the gear, he can shred and all that stuff, he never complained about it. He said this thing works really well. He had no complaints. He just sold it because he wasn't using it.
Cool. So, exactly, because this is a side point I'm trying to do. Is coming from a guitar, if you come to synthesize a guitar, once you are above average and you have a plethora of techniques on your quiver, and you have achieved a decent skill or speed on, or how would you call it, accuracy on your technique and your playing, some of these devices might slap you in the face, as in, whoa, slow down, mate, that's not going to work. But if you come from a beginner, hell, you might even start straight away with a guitar synthesizer, with a guitar with a hexaphonic pickup, because what you want is to play synth sounds, but you want to execute the 3 cowboy chords you've been learning, or the 5 cowboy chords if you're that advanced, right? That means your accuracy is that it's not really there, and your speed is medium tending to low. Then you will find no issues with all the units released from the late 90s on. They're fast enough for that. I just want to preface that what I mean, but it's gonna slow you down, all right? It's going to slow you down if you're a fast player. If you're a normal player, no, they keep up. They're very capable to keep up with normal players. My problem is I've been a metalhead all my life, and I've been shredding as soon as I managed to do it efficiently. So to me, was a slap in the face. Was like, nope, stop, cross, don't speed up, velocity bumps, police, siren, high beams. No, no, no. That's not going to work. It's a disaster. And
So before I discovered this technology, I was using a different, a totally different item to do pitch to MIDI from a guitar, but it was only monophonic because it was meant to be with a microphone or something like that. And so you had to play very carefully monophonically on a guitar, which was fun. Like, it's like a lead, you know, it's okay. But then once you want to go, oh, I wish I could do chords or do, you know, a little more fancy playing without the tracking getting wonky, then you realize you quickly have to go to something like a 13-pin or one of the new audio.
And that's exactly the reason why the hexaphonic pickup technology was developed and embraced by every synth manufacturer to wanted to double down, because why would synthesizer manufacturers want to try to create a hybrid? In words, and I'm gonna butcher that quote. I think is from the ARP documentary that the wonderful and hyper brilliant and talented Alex Ball did in his channel. If you don't know Alex Ball, why don't you? And second, don't walk, run and to his channel and watch those documentaries. They're gold. About knowledge and production value, they're gold. Go and watch them, right? And the quote was, it's because we wanted a piece of the guitar market. It's just simple maths. On every band, mostly the average band, a 5-piece band, let's call it 6. Let's include keyboard players. A 6-piece band. You got one keyboard player, usually surrounded by keyboards, or at least tons of keyboards inside one single keyboard, as in many, many modules, multi-timbrality, blah, blah, blah. And 2 guitar players and a bass player. So just from the get-go, they're 3-1. If you get a piece of this market, means that you could have possibly 2 cells instead of 1. So that's kind of the hidden agenda, and is possibly the only reason why Roland is still trying to improve the concept and to finally break through and get every guitar player on earth to have a synth capable or MIDI capable guitar triggerer. Otherwise, they would have stopped by now, because every generation has some acceptancy. Basically, all the guitar players that adapt to it, that they're open of the extra possibilities that opens to a guitar player. If guitar players didn't have enough possibilities of sound creation out of the plethora of hyper complex pedals you can buy nowadays in 2024, there is that. If that wasn't big enough, that wasn't huge enough, then add MIDI and Bob is your uncle. Anything MIDI triggerable is at your disposition. And if you're smart enough or have enough money, all of them at the same time. Let me just pin this thought for a second and check a little bit on the chat, because I just remember where I derailed my train of thought. I was talking about Synthetic commented that on bass guitars they're extra problematic because of the low tuning. One of the jobs that the brain has to do on guitar, that's one of the problems that the technology has been fighting for, what? That's 2, 3, almost 4 decades now, is the fact that on top of notes that are very loud, when you play guitar, there's another bunch of sympathetic or strenuous, strange noises that you generate that are actually voltages coming out of the pickup. So the brain needs to realize on a almost binary, or at least trying to be binary way, what is a music note and what is a sound it needs to ignore. That takes a lot of computer power and that takes a lot of latency time. That is always been the Achilles heel of the whole technology. All right. And on bass, it's even worse because bass, conventional 4-string bass, is generating frequencies out of the strings that a digital brain might think they're nothing but sympathetic vibration from sound coming from outside, because it's rumble. It's really, really low. Okay. The situation gets even worse if you talk about modern day 5-string basses, and it gets unthinkable if you try about modern day metal applications of 5-string basses down tune, sometimes even a fifth or a sixth. So those frequencies to many digital brains are nothing but the earth moving, basically. It's elephant noise, as in sounds only elephants can hear. But nowadays we use them for music. So that's another thing that the new machines are still trying to fight, to be smarter on what is sound, note, and what is noise. Things you don't have on a keyboard, because notes are only when the switch under the key is moved. Everything else is ignored because no switch, no contact, no voltage is moving. Do we have any questions?
Quick comment before we get to the chat, because this is an intro stream about some of the tech and how to get into this stuff a little bit. So like I bought a long time ago, I bought a Stratocaster Squire, like the cheapy one, for like 150 bucks. And then I bought my friend's GI-20 there, or something similar to that. I've seen them online used for like 150, 200 bucks. And then how much are those little pickups if you want to add the pickup if you don't have a 13-pin guitar?
What do you mean? Which pickup?
If you want to bolt on the hexaphonic pickup to a regular guitar, how much are those?
Okay.
Like a basic.
So in the beginning, all the way until 2023, late 2023, when this GM800 with the new GK5, that's the name.
GK5.
If anybody doesn't know, Japanese don't do fours. So it's funny to me. It's just funny to me. No Japanese brand is going to use a number 4 in any model that they want to market. If anybody wants to know, I'm happy to tell.
Except for Jupiter 4.
That's one of the very, very little exceptions. Think about that. Yeah. Although I think they did a 404, which I don't know what exactly was it.
Yeah, SP404 is the Roland.
Okay.
But they
try not to use it. It's probably because they run out of numbers for that particular moniker. I don't know. I'm just making this shit up. But the tradition is number 4 in Japanese is very similar to the word death. So they try not to use the number 4 at all.
Yeah, Wagu's here. He can weigh in on that. He's the Japanese expert. So.
Yeah, exactly. Please ask Wagu. He can back me or say expose me as I'm just talking shit. I'm happy to learn.
But in a nutshell, just like the basic, if you wanted to buy some cheap stuff to get started, what?
Good. The GK5, because it's the new generation, it's only applicable through to the GM800, or backwards compatible if you add an extra box, which I think is like £200 or £300 for the adapter from GK5 to GK3. If you wanted to buy a GK3, GK2, I don't advise the GK1 because I think they moved very quickly through that one. It was really, really rough around the edges. I think the pickup itself, we're talking 150 to 190 pounds last time I checked. The base version is also 150 to 200 pounds last time I checked. But with a pickup, you need a GI unit or a GR unit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because that pickup actually does nothing.
So cheap guitar, box, and pickup, like $450, something like that, roughly.
That's a bargain.
I mean, 500, something like that, right? Just if people want to get started, instead of having to buy like the fan, because I know the guitar I bought from my friend with the GI-20, the guitar was basically unused, beautiful with the bag and everything. It's a iGuitar by, I always forget the guy's name, but it's a really, really nice guitar. They're like $1,800 or something.
Brian Moore.
Brian Moore. So it's like an $1,800 guitar.
No, it's an awesome piece. It's like an F1 of a guitar.
So he gave me that with the box for like a really dirt cheap, right? So I got lucky. But most
anything
people out there won't find that.
Cheap. Yeah.
It was way cheaper than that. It was even less than half of that. So exactly. So but just so people know, if they want to get into this stuff and tinker around and see if it's for them, $500 for the basics used, right? Would be somewhere to go.
Good. Are we going to start giving advice, although we shouldn't, we shouldn't.
No, but I mean, just because it's
to beginners, that gets really tricky if you ask me, because I had a bad experience. Anybody who knows me knows that all my problems and tribulations started the day I bought the bloody GR55. And I learned the hard way many things I didn't want to learn about electronics and MIDI and synthesizers, because that thing, let's put it this way, it has made history, and not on a good way. Although it's an awesome piece of kit.
And you have huge fans like Gaz Williams. He loves it,
Yeah. And until Boss started releasing their own version, SY line, out of quarter-inch technology, which they have been developed on the GT units for a decade and a half, it was the best option on the market. The sturdiest, the one that would take the biggest beating, the one with the biggest sound power, but it has some shortcomings that has put him in history as dozy. Okay, we'll explain on another time. If we ever do a show on the 55, if anybody's interested, I'm more than happy to show and share my opinions. Okay, no facts, no science, no proof, just my opinions.
It would be a good show because it's an interesting box. So.
It is really interesting.
Briefly explain all the modules it has inside of it. It's really deep.
Exactly. That's the point I was about to explain. One of the things that made the 55 unique in history of the GR line of guitar synthesizers is that it's not one device. Technically speaking, it's 5 devices in one box, right? All of them are compromised because they also aimed for a very affordable release price. It was released, the brain alone, under $1,000, sometimes around 600 pounds, the brain. Obviously, with the brain, you can do nothing because this particular brain does not even have a guitar input, right? So you need a 13-pin or no game, not cigar, no cigar. So with the pickups, I think they went all as far as 800 pounds each released. But you're getting a dual engine Rumpler, and this is a word I'm using very carefully, Rumpler synthesizer, a VG guitar unit, which is the other side I was commenting about technologies that took or embraced the hexaphonic pickup to change the sound of a guitar, the virtual guitar technology.
It's like physical modeling, right? Kind of like physical modeling. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. It's physical modeling for guitars. So on a nutshell, on a very simplistic way, you own, let's say, a Gibson Les Paul guitar. You are so lucky you own an Gibson, or like my good friend Paul Artola, who I think he owns a PRS guitar. Very nice piece of kit, extremely, very, very nice sounding. One of the best playing guitars you could buy. But for some reason, you fancy playing Clapton music. Eric Clapton, when he was playing, I don't know, with the Yardbirds or with the Blues Breakers, he was playing a Gibson 335, but you have a Les Paul. Oh, what a bummer. Virtual modeling for guitars allows you to make a Les Paul sound like a 335. More even, it allows you to get a humbucking pickup. If you ask, we'll explain. And if you don't ask, on a later day, we'll explain the parts of a guitar for those who have never have owned one, if they're curious. So if you have any questions, please bring them on. Make a humbucker pickup guitar sound like a single coil pickup guitar. Extreme differences in tonality, right? Well, as extreme as guitars go. Oh, Paul, sorry, you're replying. Selling a PRS here. Sorry if I missed. PRS from Maryland, like me, but similarities. But you own a guitar, don't you, Paul? Please remind me, which guitar do you own? Just curiosity, as a side note. So, on top of that, it has a downsized version of a GT unit. So we have basically two GR units, a VG unit, a GT unit, and on top of everything, for shits and giggles, a WAV file media player. So you can
GT's
play your
effects,
own
right?
backing tracks. GT is the boss. Sorry, I didn't nuance that. Is the boss line of top-level professional multi-effect floor units. They did a couple of attempts of doing racks, but they sold way many units of the floor units. Okay. Then, well, that's another branch, and that is getting a little too much a strictly guitar subject, which I don't mind, but some of the people viewing might not be so pleasant about it. Okay, so Paul is back, says he has a Squire, very nice. And an Ibanez electric, very nice. If you come back, one day I'll tell you the story behind the name Ibanez. Tarser and Squire fretless bass. I don't know Tarser. Huh, interesting. Synthetic, could you look for that name, Tarser?
Yeah, I can. By the way, there's some interesting comments. Like people are saying, "Why would I want to play piano with a guitar?" Which is a valid point because it's kind of wacky.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you have an idea why you'd want to do that.
Good, because that's exactly why we're here today. The title and the description of this live stream. But why the heck? Why would you? That's an atrocity. That should not be. That's a travesty. Well, let's state the obvious first and get it out of the way, because that is non-conducive, which is, why not? First of all, why not? Because in one song you're writing, you've been playing guitar for 20 years, in one song you're writing, you want the intro made by a piano. But you don't know any piano players, you cannot afford any piano players, and you think, like partially I think, backing tracks kind of suck, right? So you are a competent guitar player, you can play the inversion and the chord you want to play, you just wanted to have the sound of a piano for 8 bars, 16 bars, and the rest of the song you're banging and chugging on your electric. But you would like to have that, right? So that's the first one. Why the heck not? But then it's because that opens you a expressive palette. As I said, if guitar players didn't have a huge palette already due to the electronics attached to the guitar, but even huger Yeah? Bad English. So no idea in your head needs to be restrained or scrapped. I want a brass section. I want a brass stab in the middle of the solo of my fellow guitar player in the band. I want to back him with brass stabs, but I can't find any brass players. I don't want to buy extra microphones. Brass instruments are very expensive. For the same reasons that synthesizers started playing more than just piano sounds or keyboards or just organ sounds. They wanted pianos and organs, and then strings, and then brass, etc., etc. The same train of thought that a keyboard player had through the 70s, 80s, 90s, all this race of technology that has brought us where we are right now in 2024. It has been also in the brain of many guitar players, because just let me point out my case again. I play guitar just for the only fact that I could not afford a synthesizer back in the day. I had to choose a price tag. I had to mortgage my home that I didn't own because I was living with my parents still, or an instrument I could pay with my alimony in 6 months. Sadly, the guitar won.
The other fun thing
What
too
would be
is
your reason?
because, well, because like people do alternative stuff with pianos. They'll open it up and they'll play the harp part of the piano with weird techniques and stuff and get really cool sound design out of it, right? Well, you could also play weird parts of the neck in a range of the piano that's not normal, in a method that's not normal, and get weird ass sounds out of that when you mix effects with it.
Go beyond the limits of the original instrument.
So it wouldn't just sound like a piano; it would be bizarre, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Once again, expression, and who is to restrain creativity and expression? So, with all due respect, and I thank you very much for this question, Little Mister, this is the type of attitude we don't accept in this show.
But it's a totally valid, funny question too, because it's
totally valid. And as I said, let me say again, thank you very much for the question. If you have any more, please bring it on. We'll love to answer if we can. And if we can't, we'll find the answer and get back to you, okay?
For example, the classic Casio DG20, the really futuristic looking plastic guitars they used to sell. It's the little brother of the PG series.
The compromise version of the PGs.
They're pretty, and they have plastic strings. They're terrible, right? But they're fun and they look cool. And if you do like a retro video, but they had piano sounds and other stuff on there, and it sounded really bad when you played them on the guitar. It just didn't work. But they tried to give people that option,
Also, let me point out that this cross mentality, this almost brain transplant that the guitar synthesizer world pushes you to commit, because due to either technical difficulties, hey, slow down, this is not going to work with this gear, or just the nuance or the expressivity of the sound you're applying to your guitar playing now, excuse me, forces you to think on an unconventional to you guitar player way, which is, okay, I want to play a flute, but I can't play a flute like Jimi Hendrix played a Star Spangled Banner. That's not going to work. That doesn't sound like a flute. Nobody would believe that's a flute. I need to do a little research and learn how to express, how to modulate, how to do the inflections and the nuances that a flute player would do if I want to get closer to what a real flute would do. As in, it's even a composition exercise that expands your music writing brain. The same way then a classical composer, it's meant to know at least one instrument on each family in the orchestra, just to understand what things he can write for that instrument and what things he cannot write. Hey, Brad Lemmings, I just saw that he's waving. Playing a guitar synthesizer pushes you to think more like the instrument you're trying to replicate, and not as much as the instrument you're actually touching, interacting with. So that in itself, I think it has a huge value. What do you think?
Well, like, Rich Hilton is into guitar a lot these days. I didn't know that. Apparently, he's been playing for years because he's mostly a keyboard guy. But he's right about the fact that why something like the Rolly Seaboard is revered, because you can squish it and play it like it's a guitar neck in a way. You get wiggle and get all this expression you can get with bending strings. And because you're directly affecting the sound, at least in an acoustic instrument, you're actually directly controlling the sound by vibrating the strings, moving the air with your hands, not some intermediate. Like when you do these days when you drive a car, it's all like driver assist stuff. You're not directly moving the wheels and feeling the torque. It's all
the gearbox.
Systems in the way with electronics, removing you from the direct connection of the equipment. And same thing with electronic equipment, and except for like the Osmos and Rolly and stuff, and guitar and proper band instruments in an orchestra, stuff like that, or violin, all that stuff. Very tactile, completely to sometimes your detriment if you're not a good player or you have a bad day, really screwing up the sound. But you do have full control of the sound.
Exactly, and that's I think I could bring another argument for the hybrid. And this is just my elucubrations, my joining the dots on a twisted way of why the reasons why a traditional keyboard player or a trained keyboard player like Mr. Richard Hilton would want to either jump to a Rolly or jump to a guitar. And when I say jump, I'm implying a level of courage. Why?
Yeah.
Although all fretted instruments, which there are a bunch, which I believe is just guitar, because, well, they're folk instruments and traditional and in other countries, traditional instruments, different instruments like lute, biguela, sitar. Sorry, the sitar. Sitar is a fretted instrument as well.
Yeah.
Although they have
very weird frets, they're not normal frets.
First of all, what is normal?
I mean, it's these big curved.
Pin that thought.
It's a big aerial fret, right? So
we're already trying to break walls in this chat of normal is not normal, or normal is overrated. Okay, not normal is good. So going back, even when fretted instruments they have what you call training wheels on your control of the pitch and the modulation of and the expressivity and the tone generating of your final musical result. It takes some bravery because, as you just mentioned, you still can mess it up. You can sound bad on a guitar with frets.
There's no excuse. It's you. There's no robot taking over in the middle, right? So
yeah, and
if you mess up a guitar solo, it's you, right? So
exactly. Because you're louder. Yeah. Usually because you have uncontrollable amounts of volume. To try to explain it plainly, it's actually gain, but let's reduce it to volume. And because on a proper written song, the whole band is also going to play quieter to allow your solo to pop out, right? So you're exposed. On a guitar, although you have training wheels when it comes to pitch, you still can mess it up and you still can play very, very wrong notes, all right? On a keyboard, either synthesizer or traditional piano or even organ, unless you have aftertouch and it's engaged and it's very sensitive and your technique is so, you can't play wrong notes, as in not in the same harmonic environment that the rest of the band is playing. You can play the...
Although
I'm
if your
assuming
guitar
you're
tech
saying
screws
on-
up, remember the Van Halen clip in the concert? Your guitar tech screwed up, and he came out playing out of tune.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a even more scary example. One of the evolutions in guitar technology, which is all mechanics, because the electronics of an electric guitar has not evolved since the 1920s, kind of. Tweaks here and there, but not really breakthroughs. All the evolution has been on the design and the mechanics and the mechanical parts of the guitar. One of them was what is called the Floyd Rose bridge, floating bridge, right?
Hey,
It's a system.
Rose.
Yeah, hush, hush. It's a system of tremolo. It's a system of vibrato, which guitar players wrongly call tremolo.
It's your
And
whammy
let me
bar,
get this-
basically.
Yeah. To be safer, you call it whammy, but even the blurb, even the big brands, they call it tremolo when it's actually vibrato. It's changing, it's modulating pitch. It's not modulating
tremolo is
volume.
a volume. Yeah, volume.
Exactly. But if you buy a guitar, even you go to the shop and they're going to call it tremolo arm, right? One of the systems to try to allow more extreme techniques on vibrating or modulating the pitch of a guitar was called Floyd Rose bridge, a system so convoluted and complex that when a regular guitar takes 2 hours, 3 hours tops for a new set of strings, a Floyd Rose system could take up to 5 hours, right? And if that is not scary enough, if one string of the 6 strings or 7 strings, because they've gone all the way up to 7, breaks, the remaining strings are all of them out of tune.
Mhm.
That's why in the 80s, all the hair metal bands, I don't know, Queensryche, Dokken, even Van Halen, had to have multiple guitars because a string breakage on stage means this guitar is unusable anymore.
Mhm.
That's why they needed multiples and multiples of multiples. Do we have any questions?
Paul wants a MIDI banjo. So
Careful what you wish. We need to talk.
although
with
Steve Martin would play it
Oli.
well. So yeah.
We need to talk with BG Oli. I think he's onto something.
Yeah.
I think
Well, he's funny because you remember the NAMM footage when I'm walking around, I go, look, banjos. He goes, careful, careful.
Yep.
Because he's waiting for the
Careful.
ridicule to come, right? So.
Yep.
So another thing I wanted to comment on is the
yes, please.
because we're talking about Van Halen, we're talking about keyboards, we're talking about something like this where you can play it like a pedal steel almost. It's a flat thing. What's so cool is because a piano is basically a percussive instrument, right? It's melodic, but it's percussive because it's hammers hitting strings, and you can play it very much percussive. And then you have hammer-on pull-offs on a guitar when you use your tilt techniques. That's very percussive, right? Kind of.
On a piano, as in physical piano, you don't have pull-offs.
No, but I'm on a guitar. On a guitar.
Yeah, on a guitar, yes.
And then you have someone like Van Halen, who was a great keyboard player, who's also a guitar player, and developed his crazy hammering technique, which everyone shreds like these days, because he's mimicking kind of playing on a keyboard, right?
Watch it. No. I
Kind of
got
is.
some insight about that if you want it.
I mean, I knew you'd have another angle, but I'm just saying to someone who's not a guitar player, really, watching him play, and the fact that he's also a shredder on synths, it looks like he's doing leads on the guitar while he's doing his crazy shreds.
I totally get your point of view. It's totally valid. Yes, it's true. Yeah. But although he was the most noticeable face on the earth for those type of techniques about what is called two-hand tapping or tapping, neck tapping, right? That technique he just applied comes from flamenco.
Mm.
The flamenco players, way before electric guitars, were doing legato runs, right?
Okay.
And some of them, every now and then, very occasionally, would also bring their hand over to the neck. The plucking hand would bring it to the hand to hit one of the strings to have a different bass notes. Because I don't know if you know or anybody in the show knows, the original guitar, or the first thing we can associate with the guitar, was a 4 double string instrument. Only 4, right? So the same way that now we see the metal new generations that has created what we call extended range guitars, means guitars with more strings than 6, 7, 8, and trust me, there's even 9, right?
Oh, you also have Chapman stick too.
Yes, but we don't count that one because that is a fusion. It's also an extended range, a stringed instrument, but is meant for the shape and the position of execution. It's meant to be played only by tapping. It's not meant to be strummed or even picked, all right? It's meant to be played as more on a piano type of technique. And it's a fusion of 5 strings of a guitar and 5 strings of a bass. So basically, it's the more comfortable way to have a double neck guitar. But both of them fused into one single neck, just separated by the string distance and the gauge of the strings, right? And I was talking about the tapping. The tapping goes all the way back, and some I think I've seen a video, black and white, I think from the 50s or around the 50s, from an American acoustic guitar player doing 2-hand tapping on the neck. So some of that information somehow, or probably not, because we know that as in electronics, in music also, 2 composers might get to a similar technique or a similar timbre or a similar style from 2 continents with not ever having heard of the other one.
Well, who was the main? Who was like the first real guy to do it on electric? It wasn't Eddie Van Halen, right? It had to be someone before him.
No, he wasn't the first one to tap on electric. He was the first one to make a thing out of a big section of tapping, as in a whole solo. And he's the first one who did it on MTV. Right. As I said, he wasn't the first. Some might argue he wasn't even the best, but he was the most noticeable.
So who would you say is the best?
I would say Stanley Jordan.
Oh, okay, yeah. He also used synths too, right? Didn't Stanley Jordan also do synclavier stuff?
I think he evolved into synths afterwards. After doing his whole 2-hand tapping on 6 strings.
I think he did synclavier and Fairlight at some point. I have to look that up. I forgot about Stanley Jordan.
Cool. Yep. But because he was a musician with what I consider, what I call a more open mind, as not advert to not being conventional, right? So, as I said, legato technique is been on electric guitar almost since the first days. The God bless hyper talented Mr. Les Paul. He was doing legato stuff. He was doing thumb tapping on the string. So take the plucking hand to the neck to pluck a string while he was playing legato on other strings, and then slide that bass note. He was the Van Halen of the 50s. Am I right? 50s, 60s?
53, I think it was. I can't remember. I think
with Mary Ford.
Yeah,
I mean,
they had a big. If you guys want to see something cool, they had a great birthday celebration for him that Eddie Van Halen played at. Jan Hammer played, and they had a big thing on stage. Speaking of Keytar, they had a jam off where Eddie does a riff, and then Jan Hammer does the Keytar riff, and it sounds very guitar-like. It was a really cool riff.
Cool.
Go look that up. The Les Paul birthday. It's really
Cool.
good little thing.
And one of the things that to me proves how talented that guy was in his later years, I think, on a way of speaking, obviously this is not true, but he is one of the few guitar heroes that died on stage. He played almost to his last breath of life. He was playing, I think, in Manhattan. I'm not sure if in the Blue Note Club. I'm not sure, don't quote me on this. But one of the clubs of jazz on Manhattan, who was playing almost until days before he died. And
I think his birthday was an 80th. It was like 20 years ago. It was his 80th birthday or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. And he was ridden with a very crippling, he said, this rheumatic thing that doesn't allow you to move the fingers.
Oh, yeah. Just rheumatoid arthritis. It's rheumatoid arthritis, so it swells up and it's painful.
They swell up and you lose movement on the joints. He was like that for the last, I don't know, 6-10 years of his life, and he never stopped playing. He just changed his technique, and the guy still managed to play jazz guitar and play lead jazz guitar with arthritis, all because of the melodic and harmonic knowledge he had.
Yeah,
he's one of the greatest. So enough about blabbing about guitars. What about people who just put a strap on a keyboard and made history? Tell me, I want to know.
Well, Jan Hammer is one of my favorites, but you had like George Duke on a Moog Liberation. You know,
That's
no one goofed on him for playing the Moog Liberation, right? Because they're big and heavy and they look and sound cool. And
it's a finite in itself.
Yeah, it's great. So you had like Edgar Winter, Frankenstein. He strapped on an R2600 keyboard and plays it like a Keytar. There's so many people out there that did Keytar stuff that was
good. Cool. Let's share it to each other. I want you to tell me after mine. What is your oldest memory or notion of becoming aware of somebody on a stage on a band performing with a guitar? I'm gonna go first. I'm sure I saw the people from Top of the Pops, and I saw or when the same people came to the equivalent show in Spain. But the first that got burned in my memory was the performance that Pink Floyd, sorry, no, I think I'm wrong there. Roger Waters executed on the Berlin Wall after the fall. That whole show they did building a physical wall and then tearing it down.
Yeah.
I think it was Thomas Dolby with a huge Casio Z1.
It's a Casio.
The one that had a hook on the head?
Yeah, it's Casio not FZ1. I forgot the name of it.
I think it's just Seed.
That's the one I didn't get.
Okay.
I don't have the Korg one, and I don't have the Casio one, but I have almost all the other Keytars.
Because there's one thing to my eyes, obviously correct me. To my eyes, there's one thing that has brought bad reputation to Keytars. The fact that some of the releases from the manufacturers, and I'm not even talking about the entry-level models, some of the professional models came with mini keys, with the smaller keyboards.
Like the Yamaha DX1 was played like a Keytar, had a strap lugs on it and everything.
Okay, no, but I'm talking the actual.
Sorry, DX100.
I'm talking about the dedicated Keytars with handle, and Yamaha is famous for releasing
SH101. The Roland SH101 had a little strap-on handle. You could just
but wait, is the 101? Doesn't that one have full-size keys?
It does, yeah. But from Roland, I'm talking about from Roland.
I'm talking, for instance, I think the first or second iteration of the Yamaha MIDI controller that was released with mini keys.
Oh, I have the KX5. I have a couple of those.
And
Those
that
are
was
not,
an entry
they're not
level, was
mini,
it?
they're short keys. This weird
Ah,
mix of like, they're much shorter, but they're
okay.
almost the same width. They're not as
Uh-huh.
slim as the slim keys that Korg has lately on some stuff.
Hmm.
They're somewhere between slim keys and normal keys, but they're also cut short. Because what they have I can bring it out in another show. There's
Hmm.
patch bank, and so you hook it into the it has switches to go between banks on different stuff,
Hmm.
which is very convenient. So you're not just limited to a handful of patch changes. You can pretty much make a change. Obviously, some synths have more banks and more patch numbers than it can
Hmm.
provide. It's
Hmm.
not 100%, but for anything
Hmm.
Yamaha made at the time, it actually works with it.
Hmm.
But
But I
I even
think
have
that.
a Link
Oh,
controller, the one that Jan Hammer was famous for, the LYNC Link. It was out
okay.
of New York City, and there's an LN4, LN1000, whatever. I have one of
Yeah.
those, and that has a module that comes with it,
Hmm.
and you're tethered because you had
Uh-huh.
to get power and also control this module,
Hmm.
and the
Hmm.
module can control up to 4 MIDI modules. So
Sure.
on stage, you can not just change your patch, you can change your module, which is really powerful.
Ah, like, yeah, some kind of weird
So if you had
bank
4 different,
command.
yeah, you want to go from FM to like a synth, a wavetable synth,
Hmm.
or an
Hmm.
analog synth, go to a
Hmm.
different module with all on the little keytar.
Hmm. Good. I'm just gonna play devil's advocate right now against it because it just popped a thought on me. Can't you just do that by changing MIDI channel?
Yes, but we're in the middle of performing. You can't change MIDI channels very easily. Like
Obviously,
this
depends on
thing
the
here,
guitar. But
this
yeah, I
thing
get you.
here obviously only is meant to control one module at a time. But because it
Uh-huh.
also has these little soft settings on the keys with
Mm-hmm.
functions, and you can do
Okay.
all kinds of stuff with, but it's an LED screen with the weird characters. In the middle of performance, you're
Hmm.
not going to sit there and trying to figure out, oh, I got to change the MIDI channel. It'd be a
Okay.
nightmare.
No, no,
So
no. I
unless
get.
you had a,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm not saying it would be easy with some controllers,
yeah, yeah.
but I think one of the Yamahas actually had a MIDI channel palette because it only has 4 MIDI channels to choose from. I believe one of
Um,
the original ones had that thing.
yeah, there's I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but they had um, they had a lot of different stuff out there, and of course, my first memory. I mean, I've seen other things obviously before
Mm-hmm.
that, but I just can't remember specifically. But
Mm-hmm.
I was a huge Miami Vice fan, Jan Hammer music fan and stuff. I remember Jan
Mm-hmm.
Hammer using a keytar to control the Fairlight in a wedding scene in Miami Vice,
Ooh.
and that was really cool. So
Yeah, I mean, a guitar back then was cool no matter what. The
yeah,
problem is,
definitely, yeah.
and everybody who thinks like us, you're welcome. We're here. You're with the therapy. Please come. Bring your experience, your opinions. And before everybody, the last people leaves, because I don't see, I think we're basically 3 of us right now. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, people are trying to watch the Imam, so we're competing with
Yeah,
some other stuff. It's okay.
we are totally understanding. And we've gone beyond expectations. Oh, no,
Well,
no. Well, it's just,
I did want to show a couple of things real quick, just before I forget, because we talked
yeah.
about them. So here, it's not a great picture of it, but here is
So yeah, we're definitely
the
gonna do a
Casio
show
AZ1.
on guitars.
Yeah, there's a
Jimmy,
Casio AZ1 since I brought it up here.
Jimmy. Uh-huh.
So you saw this on like
Okay.
Bobby Brown's My Prerogative
Exactly.
video. He's dancing around with one of these.
Hmm.
Um,
Do you have any recollection of a version with 1 or 2 more octaves? Because my memory of the one that Dolby was handling looked
I think
huge on him.
he was using the same thing that Jan Hammer
Oh
was.
no,
It was
no, no,
the
it's probably
Fairlight
this one.
keyboard as a controller.
Okay,
Some people put straps on a Fairlight keyboard and use that as a controller. I saw that before.
that's courage. I've been told.
Yeah.
That's real courage. But that was
And
the
then
point.
the
I
other,
mean, we are the people, the weirdos that think that hanging a guitar on your neck, since you're gonna do a lead part and you're gonna play one-handed anyway, is cool. I'm one of them
Yeah.
because I've been hanging things over my neck for all my musical life, so I don't see the problem in that.
Sure.
And that's why I made the point that probably one of the things that didn't work in favor of popularizing the Keytars is the ones that came with mini keys. They kind of look like toys, very expensive.
Well,
toys.
the Casio, so I'm sorry, the Yamaha SH10 and
Mhm.
SH5
Mhm.
were those little cheesy kind of toy-like ones, but they still
Mhm.
transmitted MIDI. They still worked. They
Yeah.
didn't have, they didn't have velocity aftertouch, but they were still little controllers you could have fun with.
Have you ever tried to use aftertouch on a guitar?
Yeah, you can do it.
How do you think it's easy or it's just a pain in the ass?
Well, easy enough. I mean,
Okay.
it depends. I mean, if it has like Roland D50 aftertouch, no, because you have to basically an elephant standing on the key to get it to go sometimes.
We don't talk about the Roland aftertouch.
Yeah. Here's one other thing I want to mention since we're talking about weird hybrid instruments and stuff. This is a famous one that was really cool. The made by Matson, who makes the Matson Mini Modular, is the Syntax.
Just let me state the obvious. The Syntax. This one, we had a conversation about it. You are aware your video is gone, right?
Is it?
Your camera is gone. Yeah, you've gone. Now
you're because back. I clicked the wrong button. Sorry.
It's okay.
But so is it presenting?
It's okay.
Is it going? Can you see it? There we go. So you have on the upper left, you have keys you actually play, those black keys.
Yes. And
so you don't get a full octave even. You just get like a few keys you can map.
You kind
of do this weird ass neck coming at an angle.
Wait. You kind of do because you can see there is 6 keys as in parallel-ish to the neck, right? But then you have, I think you have another 2 keys perpendicular to that.
They're actually 8 there. That's true. They're 8. But I mean, you can't I don't see any octave jump buttons. But
because you're meant to do it with your thumb the same way you will be plucking on a guitar. Right. So you're meant to be doing, okay, my camera, oh, damn it, camera. So you kind of meant to be doing this, tapping on some keys and then the other fingers to the other keys, which is a technique that is very familiar to guitar players. That wasn't the worst part of this guitar. Then if we stay on that part of this,
the ergonomics, look at the bend. Yeah, that bend where it goes.
Wait. So before getting to the whammy bar, do you see this looks like a perpendicular thumb right on the same area where the keys are?
Yeah, what is that? I don't know what that is.
That's a pitch bend.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because
I've only seen it demoed once, so I haven't really.
Once again, since your arm is on the guitar already and your fingers are strumming or pressing keys piano-ish like, then your forearm is meant to bend down to get pitch at the same time.
Let me zoom in on that.
Good. You think that's
thing
weird?
Right there, right?
Yeah. You think that's weird? Let's get to the whammy bar, right? A whammy bar on a guitar, what it does is mechanically applies more tension to the strings. So by tension, the pitch rises. Or in some systems, you can apply more tension or less tension. So your pitch rises or drops, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
That is electronic. That is a joystick. I think it has 4-axis control. You got up and down, as in wiggly, and then you have side and side, and I think also, right? Then this switcher old-fashioned that looks almost like a bow tie, I think that's where you can change your programs. Cool.
The funny thing is, watch this though. I'm gonna switch real quick to the image here.
the plucking strings, the ones that are here in the body, they're rigid. They basically have no movement. They're more like buttons, like, you know, those metallic buttons that just by capacitance, they detect that you're touching it. Well, those are rods, which is something that your EC guitar copied. That technology is the one in your EC Yamaha guitar. Those rods but on the EC, they made them flexible. These ones are actually solid metal rods that don't move.
Oh, wow.
All right. If you think that's weird, let's get to the neck.
Yeah, here's the shot here. Look at this. Look how uncomfortable it is.
Is this a picture or a video? It's just a picture, right?
There's a guy playing it.
Yeah, but is it a video?
No, just picture.
Yeah, this is.
But look at that. Look at that angle.
Wait, isn't this Robert Fripp? I know this guy.
I don't remember the caption here.
I'm confusing this guy. Paul, I'm sure you know Paul. Please help me. Who's this?
Yeah, I just clicked a picture. I'm not sure who it is.
I think it's Robert Fripp.
But they demoed this on that old BBC show Rock School. You can actually see one in action. That's where I first saw
Fripp.
it.
So do you know who this is, Paul? It's ringing a huge bell. I don't know. I don't
think it's Mattson. It's not the guy who invented it, I don't think. But he does obviously play
as
it
I
too.
said, I think it's one of those. The name is not coming, but the concept that this guy has been experimenting with synths and Holsworth. Thank you very much. Exactly, Alan Holsworth. I knew it. Thank you, Paul. I owe you one. I owe you a beer. So if Holsworth can't play this, trust me, nobody can.
Yeah,
he's the guy, right? So, as I said, the plucking strings are rods, non-movable rods that basically detect contact, right? And if they have movement, it's very, very slightly. For State Farm, yeah, man. The neck.
Well, that's where the Easy EG actually has like fake strings, though. They move.
Exactly, they're flexible. They're almost plasticky-ish with wire inside. It has some give, so you can strum. Exactly. All of these units you have, they learn other mistakes from this one, right?
Yeah.
Because this is not the only one that had this. One of the Casio ones, I think, also had metal rods for plugging. No, I'm confusing, Brad. Okay, let's get to the real elephant in the room, the neck, right? First of all, it's not in the same line as the plucking like it would be in a guitar, because that's where the strings are. So it's in almost shy of 45-degree angle from the plucking plane, right? So you got the plucking plane, and then the neck does this. So you're doing this weird.
Because now, the way he's holding it here on his lap, and this is clearly a fairly comfortable position because it has the groove for his leg.
Yep.
And his arm is pretty much okay. But when you see people holding it, a lot of times it's way like, it looks even funnier when they hold it. Yeah.
When you play guitar, you're used to have your plucking area on an angle, not parallel to the ground. That's totally alien. So that was one of the reasons why this thing flopped, apart from the price. Let's not mention the price.
And it looks goofy too. So I mean,
yeah, but this was the time where goofy was cool. Okay.
Yeah.
That wasn't the nail on the coffin for this thing. The nail of the coffin is the plucking area and how hard it was to pluck it, and the neck on a different angle. But the really nail in the coffin that made no guitar player wanting to come anywhere near is the fact that if you go back to the first picture you show, because it's clearer, you can see, I'm going to remove this one. You can see that the fretboard is symmetrical, meaning on a guitar, you achieve pitch by making the length of the string shorter, right? But those distances, they're not symmetrical. They're exponential, right? So smaller movements create higher pitch movements. So exactly. every single fret in this neck is at the same distance to each other. Doesn't matter if it's a bass.
I never noticed that before. That's funny.
I know. That's why I'm pointing it out. And that's why this thing flopped. No bass player, no guitar player could get used to the fact that all the frets...
You couldn't get your fingers in there. Yeah. You couldn't get the chords.
The distance is big enough. No. The distance is big enough. And in fact, they did it with the goodwill that on a guitar, the minute you go down the neck, the distance between frets is so small that your finger tip, just the little tip of the nail, barely fits in the gap. And trying to solve that problem that nobody asked them to solve is why they made this neck with all the frets at the same distance, because there was no pitch involved in the length of the string. It was just the contact of the voltage on the string touching a specific fret, which is a key, is assigned to one note, which is sadly one of the technologies that has worked the best for fast tracking on MIDI guitars to the day. That technology is still being applied. The problem is it's very expensive to apply because you need to build a neck purposefully, all filled with wires to execute that. Yeah. To the point that, have you ever heard of a bass player called Victor Wooten?
Yes.
Victor Wooten had one of his Fodera bass, we're talking $6,000 guitar, stripped the fretboard out to put all the wires and the electronic contacts on the frets so he could execute MIDI at the speed he plays regular bass guitar. There is that.
Have you ever touched one of these? Have you seen one in person or used it actually?
Never. Once again, I think I'm gonna go for I have no freaking idea, but I assume it was on the $5,000 range without the brain, because this is just a dumb controller.
Oh, right, sure.
So it's this one falls on the category of the GR500, which is a guitar tethered by a humongous wire to a floor unit.
Well, Moog Liberation, same thing. It needed a separate module for everything. So,
okay, yeah, probably, yeah. All the brains, all the circuits, and the VCOs were
the synth is in the thing, but it needed like a power module and some other stuff in like a rack thingy. I've seen pictures of it. Yeah.
No. The GR500 was an electric guitar, but it was only MIDI because I think they removed the conventional monophonic pickup, but they allowed you to have clean guitar through the hexaphonic pickup, which is another possibility of the pickup.
Yeah.
Because what is sending down the wire is the same information, the same voltage information that the quarter-inch guitar sends down to the amplifier on a regular one.
Is this also expression here? What is this little guy? The bottom of the below the strings. I don't know if you can't see my cursor.
Below the plugin string, yeah, the little bow tie there. I think it's for switching. I don't know if channels or strings. Right. There's another one on the keyboard side, and as I said, I don't know, up and down patches possibly. I don't know. If anybody knows, please tell me. I'm dying to know.
Yeah, one right there too. Yeah,
I can remember. Yeah, there is a. I know I've seen a video on YouTube of somebody actually playing it, and it's stopping the playing techniques to explain it. That's why I know that the perpendicular one is a pitch bend.
Yeah.
Or can be mapped to do pitch or modulation or whatever. It's a modulation wheel.
Right.
But by pressure. The tones of these toys, the technology has gone in all unthinkable ways to many times solve problems nobody had, just in order to say, oh, we did something different. Yeah, but it's not musical, it's not ergonomical, it's not, it doesn't allow a guitar player to bring his tens of years of experience instantly into that instrument with no adaptation or learning curve and play the music he's used to play on a standard guitar. That's the fight that this
This one doesn't
technology
either
has been
because you have
fighting for
buttons
decades.
instead of strings, right? This one
Hmm.
also has problems because it's buttons, right? So you're losing a lot of expression here with the buttons. So.
Oh, but you lose both. You lose the expression, and as in you're losing your bending capability. Although that's why you have the whammy bar to
Right.
get some bending back, right? But you also lose the possibility to fret your notes out of pitch. And you still retain the shapes, because guitar is learned mostly by shapes. As in, one of the good things, and one of the reasons of a synth player to jump to guitar is, oh, I want to simplify. Crazy as it sounds, I just want to play an easier instrument to learn. And they're right. On a keyboard, each scale takes a whole learning curve. Each scale of each degree of each tonality is a whole learning curve. On a guitar, once you learn the ergonomics, the, how would you call the movement of your fingers, the dexterity,
all the
fingering,
shapes, the chord shapes and all
once you learn the fingering of one type of scale, to change key, all you have to do is move your hand up or down the neck, which makes transposing, even on the fly, a fucking joke.
Yeah.
That's another reason why.
They also made an acoustic guitar version. There was an Easy AG, and it's
was it hollow?
Sample. It's all samples. No, it's just like samples and stuff, I think. So.
But it looked, instead of having the horns, it looked like a box.
It looked like a fakey kind of hollow body. Yeah, right.
I think I've seen that. One of these days, I need to start ditching back, because when I started learning to play guitar and learning about technology and gear, I was basically a sponge swallowing every knowledge, because I wanted to be a professional. So I thought that I had to know everything about everything.
Right.
So, and back in the day, you had something that I miss a lot from modern shops, is that if you go down a physical shop with an exposition, you could try some stuff. In Spain, very little, not a tenth of what you are using in the United States, and let's not even mention LA, okay? Or even here in England, not even a tenth of that. But everything you could not try on the shop, they have brochures, okay? I was a maniac. Every time the guy in the shop saw me coming through the door, they started trying to hide where the brochures were, because they knew that I would get one of everything. And some of those brochures, to me, shocked me very much, because we're not talking about a 4-page little leaflet folded as in a small DIN A5 or even smaller format. No, we're talking full A4.
Yeah.
Things coming from, for instance, the more shocking ones were the Fender ones. 150 or 80, 90 pages thick books, fully covered with soft covers, but the cardboard ones, right?
Yeah.
But fully fledged books, just to showcase every single product of everything Fender was marketing. Because at one point, Fender is still trying, or probably is even trying even more nowadays, is trying to become a lifestyle brand. So they want to sell you everything Fender branded. They don't build half of it. Not even half of the guitars they sell are built by Fender America. Okay? They have delegations all over the globe.
Even my guitar pick is a Fender. See? The little Fender.
Exactly. And those are the good ones.
Yeah.
Because you can show off. Yeah, I have a Fender guitar.
Yeah.
No, you don't. The coolest picks I ever bought was a very silly, because picks can be branded and labeled with anything, right? And anybody can make picks. That could be not interesting, because it's kind of dull and boring and geeky, but a curious show to have, all about guitar picks. Why when you go to a shop, if you go to Guitar Center, they must have, I don't know, 70 or 80 different picks to choose from.
Yeah.
If not more. Why? Why in hell would you?
Well,
There's a why.
mean, I lost count, but I mean, aren't there like 5 or 6 different thicknesses, and then you have different materials, and then you have
the standard brands simplify the catalog by sticking to 5 to 6 different thicknesses. Okay.
Yeah.
The brands, for instance, like D'Andrea, that only does accessories, mostly picks and strings, they go by millimeters.
Right.
On jumps that are noticeable or worth buying, but you can go everything from, I think is 0.14 of an inch or
Right.
0.014 of an inch, all the way up to 1. No, because picks go in millimeters. So it's 0.14 of a millimeter all the way up to 3 millimeters.
I had a punch that would make them out of old credit cards. It was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. The problem with credit cards is they wear off very quickly, and they're not too thick. They're not rigid.
Yeah.
Please, somebody ask me why rigidity is important. Please, please, please.
Volume?
No. Yes,
Doesn't
but
it help
no.
with the volume? Yeah.
No. The biggest argument for thickness, as in the thicker the better, is for speed playing. The thicker the pick, with a little caveat that I can explain later, the thicker the pick, the less flex the material suffers when you plug on the metal. So the less time for the tip to come back into position. So you can play faster.
Since you brought up picks, can you comment on the guys who use their fingernails and the add-on fingernails?
Yeah, I can comment. What is exactly your question? Because I can start talking for another hour.
Well, no, just real briefly, just since we're talking about using picks, and there's also, the standard finger picking style using whatever fingernails you have. But then there's like flamenco and stuff where you actually grow your fingernails out or glue on like Lee press-on nails to play. You know?
Yeah. The first distinction we need to do is that you can split finger picking in 2 main families: steel string finger picking and nylon string finger picking, right? Because of the rigidity of the steel and the harshness of the steels, again, flesh and what is the nail made of? Keratin?
Keratin, yeah. It's
keratin.
Basically it's protein the same as in your hair. It's a fused.
The
like
same
rhino horn is also keratin. Yeah.
It's just thicker and larger than a hair. Okay?
Yeah.
But it's the same protein. Exactly. So a stainless steel against those type of tissue, the stainless steel is always going to win. That's why the abusive finger picking techniques done in steel string guitars, i.e. Martins, Dreadnoughts, Jumbos, Parlors, anything basically American tradition, they had to kind of develop a type of what's the name of that thing you use when you're sewing to protect your finger from getting pricked?
Nail file?
No, when you're sewing.
Oh, sewing.
You put something, a thimble. So a thimble-ish type of pick that attaches and stays on your finger without needing the other fingers to hold it, right? Which is the standard pick that you use for rock and metal, right? It sticks to your finger and basically protects your fingers and your nails, if you have any, from getting wore off by the friction with the steel. In the other side, nylon string, which is basically the classical concert and the flamenco tradition, i.e. Spanish tradition, because theoretically we invented the modern 6-string, big body Spanish, that's why it's called Spanish guitar. It was invented in Spain. And even, that's funny because even the Spanish guitar got extended range versions. I think Francisco Yepes used a 12-string, but not the way that a Martin 12-string is. A Martin 12-string is 6 times 2 strings together, right? Tuned in different pitches. On a concert 12 string, you have a neck 12 strings wide. Very similar to the same ones that the kids are using for nu metal with 9 strings. Funny. So everything goes back to classical flamenco in Spain. So those players, A for tone, B for speed, and C for consistency, because you don't get the same brightness when you plug a nylon string with your nail, the keratin side, or with your flesh, the skin tissue. With your finger skin, it's a little raspier and it's way duller. It's not as bright, but it's also less consistent in dynamics. It's way harder to be consistently plugging the same volume if you need to when you plug in with the skin. With your nails in the other side, they always sound the same bright. Sorry, okay. The problem is not every Spanish guitar classical player that has the brain and the dexterity to move his fingers, both hands, to play the intricate classical parts, have the genetics of being able to grow very resilient, long enough, never breaking natural fingernails. So even if they're not from Spain, because this applies also to the Italian school, to the Greek school, even the German, even Japanese school, the classical performers, they need a consistency on the availability of their nails. They need a specific length, not too long, not too short, a specific thickness, not too dull, not too bright, and a consistency so they don't break on a 1 hour long gig. Because the dynamic range of the Spanish guitar, i.e. the concert guitar, and because it's very quiet in proportion to the rest of the orchestra, is very demanding. So even just because you're giving it all playing Recuerdos de la Alhambra, one of your nails might break right there. And suddenly one of your notes is dark instead of being bright, as in very dark. Okay? So that's what they give them for professional applications. They're tending to use artificial nails, as in ceramic or acrylic, any type of beauty nails that women use nowadays, the ones you glue on top of your own nail. Because I've heard horror stories, for instance, if anybody is familiar with the name Paco de Lucia, very famous fusion and flamenco Spanish guitar player, he has broke tons of, because flamenco is even louder and more exaggerate energy on the playing. He has broke nails not only through the gig, but minutes before the gig. And suddenly he finds himself with one less nail. If it's the thumbnail, which is the most important one in flamenco for all the bass notes and all the strumming, you're doomed. Your gig is wasted, is gone. So super glue his own natural nail to his own finger for the gig.
Wow.
It's not so horror story when you consider that super glue was developed as a medical aid, not as a
well, they
as
you
a
still
product.
use it in emergencies when you cut yourself in the middle of nowhere.
It's an
if you
evolution.
clean the wound, you can seal the skin. So yeah.
It's not the CA you buy in the shop from what's the brand that
Crazy Glue,
the super glue brand.
Yeah,
the Crazy Glue. It's not the one you buy in Harbor Freight. It's an evolution of that, but the cyan acrylate principles is still being applied to save people in very desperate situations.
Definitely, yeah.
And
so we've been going for about 2 hours. We want to maybe start wrapping it up. Anyone has any questions? You guys want any more questions in the chat or anything you want to ask?
Gods didn't ever do that. What? Somebody said goth, and you call my attention, mate. I sing the body electric. What did the goths didn't do? I had an enormous goth. Oh, for many years, but for 10 minutes. Okay.
One thing I didn't bring up, which would be good for a future episode, is augmenting devices that are good to make a guitar more synthy, even without a synth, like an EBO and a Gizmotron, things like that. They're really fun for giving you mellotron qualities or almost theremin-like qualities. Pretty cool stuff, you know.
And another point that I wanted to make, in the spirit of this show, is gonna always be to try to showcase one thing that the industry is making a big effort to fool the customers on believing, and it is that guitar tech and keyboard tech or synth tech are worlds apart. No, they're not. They're so integrated in each other, as in when you open the boxes that you apply to both sides, either it's a keyboard or a brain or a boom or a how you call it, a groove box.
Yeah, groove box, drum machine,
groove boxes. When you look down and then look at the technology nowadays in 2024 is being sold as guitar modifiers. When you see the guts, they're identical. They're using the same chips on the same way, with the same firmware, with different applications on the analog to digital conversion, because the guitar needs an analog to digital conversion. But once it's digital, the guts of the machine are the same. The biggest example is that conversation we had, and it's been on many shows before. One of the first, okay, I'm going to go on a limb. I think one of the first popularly acclaimed virtual analog synthesizers that was a bestseller, I believe, is the Varus DI, or the what was the brand? Because Virus was
Access.
Virus,
yeah.
The Access keyboards, the whole family with the Virus included. The same brain who came out with that product is the same brain behind the Kemper Profiler, the machine that replicates guitar amplifiers, pedals, guitar pedals, and speakers. So you can have more than one set of that, different tone variations in the same box. And it's digital, it doesn't break on the road. And even if you don't want to carry one, it's so ubiquitous that you just get your files on a pen drive, go to the gig, order a Kemper Profiler on the rider, plug your pen drive, all the sounds from your studio recording on the gig.
And that's another great thing about synths. Like Rich Hilton does that for his gigs. It just brings like a stick usually. But unfortunately, guitar players can't do that because they got to have their special stuff there.
Wait, but that's thankfully, I am part, although I am the oldest example of a new generation of guitar players that I just call him bullshit. Because there's no money on playing guitar live anymore.
Right.
Not like in the 80s, not like in the 90s. You don't make a living playing guitar on stage, even if you play metal, because it's already a lesser genre that doesn't generate as much money. Not because of the amount of people following it. That's sadly not the truth. It doesn't correlate. It's that the people that follow metal bands have less money than the people that follow, for instance, DJs on a rave. So it's the same amount of people. Just the people on the rave spend more money. So they generate more business. That's why the rave culture is exploding.
Well, they're all on drugs, so they'll just throw money around anyway. They don't care. So
I didn't say it. You didn't say it. Nobody heard it. Cool. So moving on. As a new generation that say, dude, we cannot afford to cart around heavy amplifiers just for one tone when the record was already made with 27 tones. So we need more for less. So they're caving and they're embracing digital. And the digital world is also invading the guitar world, which is the same digital world keyboard players have been playing for 25 years or 30 years, if you wish. So we're siblings that were separated at birth. That's the point I want to get.
But like you were saying, some of the emulation stuff, and especially the virtual guitar stuff, is a good idea in theory, but it doesn't quite work. You still have to have those real guitars to get those sounds because it's too plastic, right?
Can I tell one last story in case nobody in the audience knows it? Because for what I'm seeing, most of the few troopers that are still with us up to this point are coming from the keyboard side, okay?
Yeah.
There's a very big joke about guitar synth technology. You've heard of the band Iron Maiden, right? British band, British new wave of heavy metal.
Bruce Dickinson.
Bruce Dickinson's the third singer of the band, because the band had, in fact, in their history, had more members than almost the Yardbirds, right? Went on record saying that you could not ever play heavy metal on a synthesizer or with a synthesizer. And the Iron Maiden band will never, ever use synthesizers, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, take my word for it, okay? You can check it because it's online. In fact, it's even in Iron Maiden's YouTube channel. There's a video with that footage, okay?
It's the same reason David Lee Roth didn't want synths in Van Halen songs. He wanted to all be guitars and stuff, you know.
Exactly. Rock is not synth, okay?
Yeah.
And then they release Jump. Smoke it.
Exactly.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it. The same joke falls for Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden comes to an album called Seventh Son. I think it's probably Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Okay? Very late 80s, almost touching the 90s. Well, the first intro of the first song of the album is a synth intro. Very much on the Jump fashion, right?
Right, sure.
You never, ever saw a keyboard player ever on an Iron Maiden stage gig, ever.
Sure.
How the fuck did they pull that out?
Well, like Whitesnake would gladly do it because they want to put keyboards in there. So.
Yes, they would. Yeah. Because at one point in America, even rock bands had to have a synth player. Okay? Yeah. Maiden was never seen on stage with a keyboardist playing. How do they pull it out?
It's a guitar synth.
The new incorporation, the new incorporation to the band, the new lead guitar player was playing a Roland Ready Stratocaster. He was triggering all the synth pads from his Stratocaster. Stick it in your pipe and smoke that.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's. I mean, look, like you said, they have to cater sometimes. They can stick to their guns, but at some point the market demands one way or the other. Yep. Or they get jealous because the other bands are doing it and they're missing out on something. So
exactly. They get convinced by the A&R people in the record label. Oh, if you don't have things, you can't succeed.
Like early Queen didn't really have all that stuff, but then you get like the Flash Gordon soundtrack and it's beautiful synthy stuff.
And thank God they did.
Yeah, it's a great
Thank God they did.
Yeah.
Now you cannot think of Queen without synthesizers.
Yeah, exactly.
They mastered it.
If you listen to the way they treated the guitars and some of the earlier stuff, it's like We Will Rock You. It sounded like synth. It's very clever the way they did those swells on the guitars and stuff.
In my head, because I have this crazy, totally broken head, I'm a tone chaser. And one of my holy grails on guitar playing tone, because I still haven't found. Yes, a lot of people have claimed, oh, that's the way they did it. But everybody who tried to replicate it never got any closer. The guitar lead in I Want to Break Free. Can you remember that song? I want to break free.
Been a long time, but yeah, I remember.
Okay. And the video clip was very shocking because it was a lot of people with very tight cat skin suits on top of each other, men and women.
Yeah.
Very Mercury-ish, right?
Sure.
The lead sound of that guitar is still haunting me. I've never ever come any close to it. Some people said it was never a guitar. Some people say it's 3 layers and only one of the layers is a guitar. Some people say that they process that much the original sound of the guitar that it's nothing left. That's why it doesn't almost sound like a guitar. But trust me, I've never come any close.
Since Brian May's an astrophysics guy now, he maybe had some samples from the probes and he's processed them.
I very well hope so. I would love to see that.
Like Fiorella Terenzi, you know.
So just because I'm starting to be aware of the time and I'm starting to feel
exactly.
Cool people watching.
I think people are going to start jumping to there's some other live stuff going on now. So
just let me remember these few people who's I really, really appreciate from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much for being here. I hope to see many of you next month. We're going to try to do every first Friday of every month as far as our strength allows us. But please, if you have questions, if you're a keyboard player and you're curious about guitar stuff or something you never understood and want to be explained or at least pointed in the right direction on how to achieve it or how to do it or how to replicate it. And the same way, if you play guitar and are curious and want to fiddle, have synthesizer sounds, or want to know how to achieve those sounds, how to replicate it, what's the technology involved, any type of questions of any level, even I'm willing to answer questions about actual guitar technique, because that's the best I know. I cannot teach you how to play keyboards. I can play for toffee. But if you want to learn how to play keys, and that also goes for you, Andy, I'm happy to have some minutes on the show to explain it. Please leave your comments and your questions on the channel. So now, leave your comments and questions in this video. We will pick them up because this video will be moved to the final channel when the final channel is ready to be used. And also, I would ask you, we would like to know, we would like to have your contributions in music form. For the closing time, for the closing music of the show, we would love to be able to showcase your compositions with the condition it has to feature guitar. As in, I can see a guitar even when it's playing a synthesizer, or I can hear a guitar even when it's being played from a keyboard. So that's the only condition we ask of you. If you want your music showcased, it
guitar
has
samples,
to have,
guitar synth, you know.
For instance, like the one we're going to use today, which comes with our beloved co-host, Mr. Synthetic. It's a composition where he used guitars to such a convincing extent that he almost got disqualified. Is that right?
No, but I mean, a lot of people did ask me, hey, what guitars did you use? I go, these are all samples that I modified and tweaked live while I recorded them on the Machina Plus, and some was done live during the video. And it that's the cool thing about this tech is I'm still a beginner with a lot of this stuff. I'm never going to call myself a pro, but it was convincing enough to fool people who actually play guitar in the group.
Exactly.
So I thought that was pretty clever.
So that's the spirit we want to encourage. I don't mind the origin of the guitar. And as I said, either you use the shell of a guitar to non-conventional guitar sounds, or you play not a guitar, to use guitar performance, sounds, etc., samples, anything goes. Synthesizers. Just we asking that one of the sounds in the song is a guitar or is being triggered by a guitar.
In fact,
That sounds right?
the thing you're going to see is not only tweaking guitars, like basically contact libraries I got to play, but I got a technique where trying to make the drums sound more realistic too. I use the Abbey Road drums and various uses of pressure and arpeggiation, a bunch of other stuff to get semi-realistic drum performances when I'm not using a kit. So it's fun to use these instruments to go beyond that, because I'm like, I'll never be a good guitar player. I know that, and that's okay.
Yeah,
but I can take something and do decent guitar with learning ways to wrangle it live or not live, you know.
Yeah, creativity and musical composition should not be stopped by execution technique. Not anymore, not in 2024. Yep. We're not in that generation anymore. So
it's not like the old days where you had like distortion guitar preset. It's like and it sounds like shit.
Okay.
Right? It's like
my pet peeve, every time I heard a guitar patch on every keyboard I ever tried before having my own, I always ended up with this soaring thought that, okay, wait a second, that is not a guitar. That's a violin with distortion.
Right.
Because of the inflection that the guy was applying, because of the keyboard way to play the notes, which inversions. And because one fact that a lot of people pass over, guitar is a very limited range of notes it has. The even extended guitars only go up to 2.5 octaves. And that's extended range guitars with extra strings, right? So if you start playing 5 octave jumps with a guitar sound, nah, mate, that's never gonna sound. Going back to what I said about trying to play a piano from a guitar, you also need to change your brain and your composition modus operandi, MO, to try to think like the instrument you're trying to replicate.
And along those same lines too, I talked about the Rolly Seaboard already.
Yeah.
Some of their patches played well on this thing are incredibly convincing guitar type sounds.
Yep.
So
because it has one of the things that I said that a keyboard is very hard to replicate is the fact that it can go very sour pitch if you are not careful.
Yeah.
The pitch is in your
Osmos
hands,
too.
not exactly.
Osmos.
Exactly. So if you agree, I'm going to call it a show. I'm going to leave all these beautiful people go back to their lives and keep enjoying this weekend. Thank you very much for coming. Please come back next month. And if not, we had a good time. Now we're going to play this track and we're going to say goodbye until the next time. So thank you very much and bye-bye.
Bye.
And here we go.